Hello and welcome to Tech Terrain. I'm Tony Ndoro. Good to have you with us. In this episode, we'll look at optimal and maximum production, how to get the best or the most out of your land in a sustainable manner. Coming up, Dirk Strydom from Grain SA and Ferdi Meyer from BFAP join me, and I'm amazed by a new study they'll share with us. Maluta Netshaulu from Nedbank elaborates on production and the most important considerations. Then of course, the John Deere team joins me for a discussion on the amazing 5E tractor and planter technology. So lots to look forward to in this show of Tech Terrain. Don't forget, go online to techterrain.co.za for bonus material uploaded every single week to keep you up to date. Let's kick off this episode. So, as I promised, I've got two gentlemen here to talk to us about a fantastic study that has been carried out at the present moment. It's called the Data Intensive Farm Management. It's a study being carried out in South Africa. Let me introduce Dirk Strydom from Grain SA and also Ferdi Meyer from BFAP. Gentlemen, good to have you with us. Ferdi, let me start with you. What is the study? Why did you undertake the study in the first place?
Well, Tony, so in short, data-intensive farm management is a principle or concept that we learned from the University of Illinois. They came to South Africa and we saw the opportunity. We've been doing a lot of data science work in agriculture on the BFAP side and collaborating with Grain SA and other partners on this topic, and we see a huge amount of potential in this field. In other words, how can we use this big data wave that's coming into agriculture? How can you really apply it in your day-to-day management practices and really to optimize your business decisions? And that's what data-intensive farm management does. The principle is you use technology of planters and tractors, capture that data, and actually to fast track some of the trials that took us years, where we only looked at small little strips of maybe 10 meters, and we had to repeat those trials over and over again, and then you maybe have 30 observations and 50 observations. Now suddenly with technology, we can have thousands of observations. Our trial plots can maybe be 100 hectares large, and we can get so many more observations and to understand relationships.
Sounds fantastic. Now, Dirk, if I can come to you, what role does Grain SA play in this particular study? Are there other players involved from South Africa?
Yeah, we are a whole consortium of players that's involved. It's the University of Illinois that started with the project, and then we've got BFAP that's part of it that Ferdi is involved in, the University of Pretoria, the Protein Research Foundation, and then ourselves, Grain SA, that's involved. And for us as producers, it's very important to get these answers to make sure that we're as efficient as possible at the optimal point in terms of efficiency, because that's important for us in order to keep being sustainable and to be in future in terms of production that we need to do efficiency and get that optimal profitable points.
Are your producers, the ones you represent as Grain SA, are they receptive to all of the new technology, to maybe some of the data that will come out of this particular study? Basically, are they receptive to a new way of doing things?
Yeah, it's an interesting question. We had the guys from Illinois University assisting us, and they came and visit the farmers here, and they were surprised in terms of how these farmers adopt technology and how technology advanced they already are. So they was quite surprised. So to answer you, definitely, the local producers, we don't have subsidies or assistance in terms of that. So for us, it's all about efficiency. You need to be on the top point of efficiency. So definitely, South African producers are on the top point of in terms of that, and they're adopting it because they want that efficiency and they want to utilize the data that they can get out of their equipment.
That's fantastic to hear. Now, Ferdi, talk to us a bit about what you've learned so far. The study is still ongoing, yes?
Yeah, Tony, we're getting in the results now. So we looked at those yield maps. So just in short, it's what we do is you design a trial. Let's say the field is 80 hectares large or 50 hectares in size, and you plot out strips, let's say a 60-meter stretch, where a planter plants a certain density, planting density, let's say soybeans, and we want to understand, what's the optimal planting density? Is it 300,000 plants per hectare, 200,000, 500,000? So what the planter does, it passes the field and it adjusts the seeding rate. And now we have a plot of 60 meters and then it switches. And then we have another plot of 60 meters, and it does this over 50 hectares.
Yeah.
And now the combine comes and it harvests it and it gives the yield data. And then you overlay your yield data with those planting density data. And you start to build a model. It's like a regression. So now you have observations where your yield is your Y variable and your dependent and your independent variable are your seeding rates. And you can change those. Those are your X's. And now you start to get a relationship and you understand where's the optimal seeding density.
Yeah.
And optimal, or then also you calculate what the marginal increases in yields are versus the marginal increases in costs. We do the same for fertilizer. Those planters can adjust the seeding or the application of nitrogen. And you can put down 200 kilograms or 150 kilograms of your planting fertilizer, and you can adjust those rates. And based on those adjustments, you can see what's the optimal rate, how much, beyond a certain level, it doesn't make sense, economic sense anymore to to apply more fertilizer.
Yeah.
So the idea is really to roll these, to understand it from the pilot, and then, as Dirk was explaining, expand the study. And then what the key learning is, whether you're a large-scale or smallholder farmer, what we want to put out there is a better understanding of how yields are adjusting to the various circumstances. And you can do it spatially into the country. So we're running these two trials in Mpumalanga and in Henneman in Free State, but you can run it in the Eastern Cape, Natal, and you can overlay different climatic zones, for example. So you can really move beyond these trial areas.
I can understand what you're saying from an economic perspective, how it can enhance how one farms at the end of the day. But what about from a sustainability point of view?
So I think in terms of the sustainability, it boils back to what we say is, where do I get my optimal profits in terms of what I'm doing? So you can target a very high yield and you can achieve a very high yield, but is it the economic yield? And I think that's the biggest thing that this study assists with, to say maybe it's not the top yield, but a little bit of a lower yield, but it gives you your optimal profits. And like Ferdi mentioned, is you can have a look at it in terms of just plant density and you can get an answer. Or you can have a look at it just in terms of fertilizer and get an answer. But in terms of this study, when you combine the two and you've got the different observations together, you can say, all right, but how does these two variables interlink together to give you that optimal profit scenario? So now it's not just one stream of info and one stream of info on this side. Because you've got all these different observations, you can go and do a regression that's, all right, with this nitrogen level, the optimal plant level, plant density will be this in terms of optimal profits. And that's the important side. So we've achieved a lot over years to get optimal yields. We've seen we can push yields and we can get very high yields. Now the question is, where's my optimal profitability given that given yields that one get? And that's where the sustainability comes in.
Obviously, inputs is important, the kind of inputs you put into the soil. And I would assume at some point the quality of the produce that's coming out of, the combination of all of the things that you spoke about must be important.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So, for example, in soybeans, but that's in this trial, we can't map on that section what the quality of the seed is that comes out for that specific section. And so we need to adjust those trials for that specific point. But you're making a very relevant point. Think about and we talk about the content. Let's think about soybeans. And the Protein Research Foundation is also part of this consortium, doing a huge amount of research work in understanding what the content of a bean is, protein content versus oil. And if the better we can get the content, the understanding of which fields, which areas produce which content, and the quality, like you're referring to, the better we can get the consistent quality into the crushing plants, And the more competitive we make our broiler industry, because we can compete actually against imported broiler meat and imported soybean cake.
Yeah. Okay, if I can come to you now, Dirk, let's talk about the results coming out of the study itself. How will they benefit farmers on the continent, on the ground?
Tony, I think that the nice thing of this is that not everyone needs to have access to this technology to benefit out of the study. So the technology assists us to get to answers and to get to results. And the moment you've got that, you can apply it to everyone because it gives you a bit of a universal answer. The thing that needs to boil from that is that every scenario differs within agriculture. So that means you're going to need to enroll it out to different pilot studies all over to get the conditions of that area and to boil that down back to it. But any producer is going to benefit at the end of the day out of it because the results is not technological, meaning dependent on that. You've got a right to say in this conditions, this seeding rate with this nitrogen works best. And then you can go apply it with normality in the process. So technology helps us to get quicker to answers, and the answers is for everyone. It's just the conditions that change for everything. So you need to roll it out to get to the specific conditions. But all farmers benefit out of it, and one learn out of all this different. It's a continuous learning process. Yeah. So it's not a study that you do once and you get the answers. It's going to be a continuous thing, and we're constantly going to communicate it. The academics are going to write the papers out of it for the academic purposes. From an industry point of view, we're going to write popular articles, getting it out to the producers, explaining what the benefits are and how you need to look at your operations in these terms.
Okay, and Ferdi, just lastly now, what's the end game here? Once you finished your 2 studies in South Africa, are you planning to go, to different climates throughout the continent? Of course, we know it differs in certain parts of the continent. Do you have a plan to do that and also share some of that knowledge with farmers on the continent?
Yeah. No, definitely, Tony. The interesting part is the University of Illinois actually runs trials already in South America. If I'm correct, it's Brazil, Argentina, and I think some other countries in South America as well. So I think it would be interesting to start benchmarking and to see, what do we learn from the different climatic zones and regions across the world, continental, but on other continents. Yeah. So definitely, I think the idea is to expand. It obviously depends on funding, so getting financial support for this type of work, and it can really be repeated. We're currently doing it for maize and soybeans. Can be done for other plants as well. So I think we see it as a beginning of some nice data-intensive and big data type of work that one can do to really assist the farming.
You're excited about this, Dirk?
Yeah, we're very excited about. We're always excited about getting new answers to our problems. So very excited. Yeah.
All right, fantastic stuff. It's amazing. We hope to get more results from this study, gentlemen. Thank you so much for coming through to Take Terrain. Well, there you have it. This new study is currently still taking place in South Africa. They're hoping to move it through the rest of the continent and to other continents as well. And I'm sure it'll benefit all of us in Africa. Now, of course, every single farmer wants to be profitable. You want your entity, your business, your project to make money for you. But the question has to be, how can you achieve that sustainably? Here to talk to me about that from Nedbank is Maluta Netshaulu. Maluta, so simple question. How do I use my piece of land optimally?
So historically, I think the way farmers used to produce, they used to aim for the highest yield, at all costs. I mean, perhaps they were competing in terms of, I've got the better yield than my neighbor, etc. But that didn't really translate to profits. When it comes to profits, you find that someone who was perhaps following the right procedures, doing the right things, like doing their soil preparations right, getting an agronomist in, do the soil test. If you do everything right, and you make sure that you have got all the programs in place in terms of planting program, know when to plant, know when to harvest, know when to do what to do in terms of crop rotation to keep your soil active and moisture content, etc., then that should be able to assist you to make sure that you are much more sustainable than someone who is just chasing yields.
Okay, so we've gotten to that particular stage. What should one do post-harvest?
So after you've delivered your crop, whatever crop it is, to the market, then you need to decide what you're going to do with the land. Oftentimes, people will put in livestock to feed on the crop rest, if it's grains. Or sometimes people will put in winter crops, which is like oats and rice and wheat and all those things that can be able to assist them with additional income while they wait for another season to plant their grains. Others will put cover crops like pastures, for example, that they can then use to feed their livestock. So in order to, I think, to deal with pests and disease and all those other things, crop rotation assists in order to, if I can put it in a, I think, interesting ways, to confuse the pests so that they don't get used to the same crop, because then they build tolerance to that type of crop, and then you can have, if you keep putting the same crop over and over, then you can have quite a big problem. But if you rotate, then it sort of assists to deal as a natural, I think.
And obviously the buzz term right now is conservation agriculture, isn't it?
Yes.
And this is what you're talking about.
Yeah, I think along those lines, but conservation agriculture is quite broad. So by conservation agriculture or sustainable agriculture is applying principles that assist in order to sustain the sector or your operation, in terms of starting with the soil, with how you treat your food or produce loss, how you apply your fertilizer and the type of fertilizer you apply. Is it chemicals or is it biological fertilizers, like, for example, chicken manure or other things that come from other natural sources? So that's when you then start to talk about conservation agriculture. It's also about using the water in the most efficient way possible. Previously, they used to flood the lands with water, which is quite wasteful. And then they moved to the likes of center pivots that are still being used. But there are even more efficient systems out there, like drip irrigation, for example, or micro irrigation, that use a fraction of the water but have amazing results.
Okay, so it's all lovely to talk about conservation agriculture. We know we need sustainable agriculture, but at the same time, we need to look at food security. It's a catch-22, isn't it?
Yeah, it is very much so, Tony. But I think if we can balance sustainability with food security, I think it can work for everyone in terms of the sustainability of the sector. You must also remember that there is a lot of unutilized land, vast amounts, about 1.6 million hectares that lies unutilized or underutilized in the former homelands. I'm talking about KZN, Limpopo, Eastern Cape. So if we can bring those lands along the same sustainability principles, because we also want to future-proof for the next generation, then you can imagine how powerful that can be. It won't only feed us now, it will also feed the future generation. It will also assist with improving household food security, which is quite a big issue now during COVID.
It is interesting because during the times that we live in now, COVID-19, I think agriculture has seen more growth than any other industry, while the other industries are practically receding to a certain extent. I think there was 28% growth in agriculture in South Africa during even these times, which is phenomenal.
Yeah, it's quite interesting. It's actually, they actually focus around about 10% growth in terms of the GDP or contribution to GDP over this time of COVID, as opposed to other industries. So you're also seeing agriculture also being very important in terms of food security. It's also one of those sectors that was categorized as essential service. It's also a sector, but also within COVID, we also saw quite a lot of or gaps or loopholes in the value chain, and also the importance of the informal sector to the mainstream value chains. For example, when they cut off the informal sector, the guys that used to go pick up fruit and veggies and livestock from the fresh produce or livestock from the arbitrage, that sort of supply chain was cut off, and those guys in the commercial side were left with a lot of stock that they didn't know what to do with it. That's when they started to realize that, hey, these guys were actually playing quite a huge role, and now they are starting to appreciate the role that the informal sector, being the hawkers on the street, being the guys cooking on the side of the road, or the guys in the spaza shops. So you can see now it's all interlinked, and when you cut off one side of the sector, then you have got a huge, even financial impact on the other.
So it's amazing that if we're talking about the hawkers and so forth, if we just look at the numbers of hawkers that we have and what amount of produce they have, put it all together, that is a lot.
Yeah,
that's what you're talking about. The numbers become, huge, exponential.
Yeah, it's quite big, because the informal sector contributes quite a lot to the agricultural food system, and I just hope the policymakers and everyone who's making all these rules realizes that sooner than later. Otherwise, we're going to have huge food security, especially at household level, and huge unemployment because now you're cutting off critical sectors of the economy.
Maluta, thank you so much. It's been interesting chatting with you.
Thank you, Tony.
Well, there you have it, Maluta Netshaulu from Nedbank, telling us why it is important for you to farm sustainably, especially on the African continent.
The 5D series, new to our portfolio in sub-Saharan Africa. Mid-sized, powerful and versatile, with collar shift transmission, JD Taylor link and a 3-point hitch with a 1,400 kilogram capacity.
Well, now it's time to talk about what is arguably the most popular tractor on the African continent. And of course, it is from John Deere, and that is the 5E. To talk to me about that is Yaku Bears, and also Jean Elo joins me again here on Tech Terrain. Gentlemen, good to have you with us. So Yaku, let me start with you. Why is this the most popular tractor on the continent?
Thank you, Tony. The 5E, we've sold for the last 10 years more than 16,000 of those units across East Africa, West Africa and Southern Africa. What's interesting is 60% of it was in the 75 horsepower bracket, and then we go a little bit lower into the 20% on 65 horsepower and 55. Interesting actually is we do have smaller models, smaller ranges, and I refer there to the 5D and actually a 3B as well. You know, we understand there's different customer segments and different customer needs, but we'll share more of that in our bonus pack material. I want to come back to the 5E, the customer with the best customer satisfaction across all John Deere products, as well as the lowest warranty. What does that mean? It's a tractor tried and tested on this continent, reliable from a small farmer, contractor and a large producer. Basically
helping us agriculture get to the next level on the continent. Jean, I want to come to you. Why is this tractor very popular with farmers on the continent?
Tony, as someone in the field and also very close to the farmers, the feedback I get from the farmers is that this tractor that we're talking about, the John Deere 5E tractor, is very robust. It's built to withstand all terrains. So whether you find yourself in Kenya or in Nigeria or in Senegal or in Mali, this tractor is able to withstand the weather conditions of those areas. Beyond that, Tony, is the fact that this machine comes in with various specs. Yako touched on the horsepower range. So we start from 55 horsepower all the way to 75. And within that, we have the transmission, which is 9 forward and then 3 reverse. And then for those who want to be a bit technical, there is also another transmission, which is 12-12, so 12 forward and 12 reverse. And so in the nutshell, John Deere crafted this tractor having at the back of its mind the end user. And it's obvious, it's all of these reasons that pushed farmers or customers to go for this unit.
John Deere has been putting a lot of technology in its tractors, its harvesters of late. Just how technically advanced is the 5E that we're talking about, Yaku?
I want to just take us quickly back to episode 2. Viewers will recall we spoke about the 6B. And I'm worried people might be confused because we talk about versatility and a multi-tool within both series. Now the 6B is a good mid-size series tractor. So in other words, let's take it to a production life cycle. So a 6B can pull a 4-row planter up to an 8-row. So it's a bit of a bigger tractor. When it comes to the 5E, that's that first product series where you can fully mechanize. In other words, from land prep, planting, spraying, the full transport, the 5E can offer that entire spectrum. Now let's bring it back to the customer. That farmer that thinks of to mechanize, this is that perfect fit where you can do from again land prep all the way to the transport of the crop back. Then you go to the contracting segment. Great opportunity for an entrepreneur that would like to build a proper business. Reliability is key. And I just mentioned earlier that this has got a great customer satisfaction and warranty. So you would contract to want that machine to run 365 days. And then you go to your big estates and large farmers. There, for them, it's all about the fuel efficiency. They want a machine that can run at the lowest possible cost. And that's exactly what the 5E's got to offer.
So, Jean, simple question. Why should I get a new tractor? Why can't I hold on to my old faithful from back in the day?
I know you love your old tractor because it's become part of you for a while.
Yep.
But then I can tell you, and you will agree with me, that it costs you a lot of money to keep that tractor running because technology of that tractor, it's outdated. So what the 5E does, it bringing you modern technology. So I talked about fuel saving earlier on. So with all of these savings that you're going to get from the tractor and with all the technology in, we'll make sure that this machine gives you the maximum uptime. Beyond that, with the frugal telematics that I also mentioned earlier on, all combined with this new tractor will help you with all the savings to be able to pay for this tractor within the shortest period of time. So you have all the reason, to leave your old machine that you love so much and go for the 5E, which obviously it's a very robust tractor, Tony.
So, Jean, can you also expand to me on the technology front as well? And also talk to me about service throughout the rest of the continent for the 5E.
On technology, Yako touched on fuel efficiency. And then when you come to us as John Deere, we believe technology means different things to different people in the various customer segments that we deal with. So I'm going to touch on a few respective to the customers that we deal with. Specific to fuel efficiency, this 5E tractor is built with a lubrication system which sprays oil to cool the machine at all time. And what that does is that it ensures that the machine is able to run smoothly with the minimum amount of fuel. Now, beyond that, Tony, is also the fact that this unit comes with what we call AutoTrack Universal 300 technology. And that enables the machine, this 5E, to be able to run, and also keep in memory the areas that it has passed. And what that does is it helps to reduce fuel, also increase uptime. In addition to that, Tony, is that we have what we call the JD Telelink. Okay, for a contractor who wants to have control, or a farmer that wants to have control of its equipment, and be it being on traveling or even at home, you're able through your mobile phone to see where that machine is placed, or it is at the point in time using the John Deere Telelink. Now come to your question on service. John Deere today has a number of touch points across the whole of Africa. Just to give you a rough idea, we have over 188 touch points. These are places where anybody owning the 5V can just take his tractor there or call any of the dealers. The dealer is able to go there and then provide that after-sales service. And Yako mentioned about warranty. And so for that machine, in terms of warranty claims, it's one of the lowest. Like I mentioned earlier on when I spoke to you, this machine is built to withstand the weather conditions on the continent, so it hardly breaks.
Fantastic stuff, Jean and Yaku. Thank you so much for giving us more details about the 5E, which is arguably the most popular tractor on the continent. But I want to stay with the theme of the African continent and also maximizing yield. And right now go to Kenya, where I've got Jan-Elise van Buren who's standing by. And Jan-Elise, good to have you with us. First question to you has got to be: the benefits of a good planter are often underestimated on the continent. Am I correct to say that?
Tony, yes, but equally important, specifically to the continent of Africa, the benefits are also not always known, and how mechanization and precision planting can help optimize yields. Now, what are these benefits that we are talking about? That can be things like the ability to optimize the planting window, to ensure that you get your seed into the ground in that specific planting window. Also to fully take advantage of the moist content still in that planting window, which is very important for your seed germination. We need to keep in mind that not all farmers on the continent have access to planters. And that is sometimes very difficult for them to stay within that planting window. And that can have a huge effect on their yield. With our planters, we have simultaneous seed and fertilizer placement. And that is also a huge cost and a time saving to the customer. The position of our fertilizer placement to the seed is next to the seed, so that the fertilizer doesn't burn the seed during the germination period. Also with our planters, with an accurate seed placement, we have less skips, which help enhance your yield, and also less doubles and seed wastage, which is another cost saving to the farmer. Obviously, the setup of our planters are very important, so your depth control and seed to soil contact is very important when it comes to the seed germination. Tony, you mentioned maximizing yields a couple of times. I'd like to share with you some of the results that we've seen in Ghana, specifically to the more emerging farmers, where they harvested on average a ton a hectare prior to making use of a planter. And after purchasing our John Deere 1015 planter, their yield increased to between 5 and 7 tons a hectare that they harvested. Now that showcases the benefit and value of mechanized planting.
All right, Jan-Elise, so now that we know the importance of the planter on the African continent, what does John Deere actually offer the farmer on the continent?
Tony, John Deere offers a full range of planting solutions to customers big and small. And that can range from planting a small 2-acre plot up until a 20,000 hectare farm and more for our commercial customers. Now, Jean and Yaku just spoke on the 5E series tractor, and we actually have a perfect fit in a planting solution to our 5000 series tractor, and that is the 1015 planter. Our focus and our target market for the 1015 planter is specifically the contractors and then the small scale and the emerging farmers. The 1015 planter is available in a 2, 3 and a 4 row, with marker arms as an option available on the 4 row planter. Also various row spacings that the customer can choose between, and that varies from 76 centimeters to 91 centimeters. When it comes to the seed placement, the farmer has the option to choose between the very popular finger planter or the seed plate option, and we can plant various crops with our 1015 planter. Tony, for us in John Deere, we believe in the big farmer and we believe in the small farmer. And with planters big or small, we offer technology to help increase yields.
All right, Yanelise, thank you so much for speaking with us. So there it is. You need a turnkey solution from John Deere if you want to maximize your yield. That's the right way to go. We've come to the end of yet another edition of Tech Terrain, and I have to remind you, go online to techterrain.co.za for bonus material uploaded every single week. For myself, Tony Ndoro, until next time, bye-bye.